Well, everybody has been hearing about Superman a lot, I'm sure, because, well, it's just on the precipice of release here for the summer of 2025. A lot of anticipation for this film, and there's a lot riding on it. So we've heard stories of, let's say, the movie cut by 30 minutes, Ender fired, all this fallout from these screenings that they've held for this specific production right here. We've seen massive opening weekend projections. Yes, that's true. But now we've heard that, the budget's a little bit higher than I think anybody expected. Here from That Park Place. Hollywood Reporter pushes back on James Gunn budget claims for Superman, suggests costs could top $400 million. Whoa! June 5th, 2025 from Marvin Montanaro. For months, James Gunn has publicly pushed back on just about any report that he claims misrepresent his upcoming Superman reboot. But now, one of the industry's biggest trades is calling his bluff on Superman budget claims. New investigation from The Hollywood Reporter appears to directly refute Gunn's prior comments about the film's production costs, suggesting that the budget for Superman may be far higher than the studio wants to admit. In fact, according to THR, the film's gross budget could be as high as $363.8 million, with marketing expecting to push that total into the $400 million range.
Easily.
Whoa. Oh, yes. And we'll go ahead and get to the promotional costs in just a moment, because even those might be higher than you might be anticipating. That's a sharp contrast to Gunn's own messaging, and it marks a rare moment when a major Hollywood outlet is publicly challenging the DC Studios co-chair's version of events. What Gunn said about Superman budget. Last year, documents filed by the Superman production team with the Ohio state government listed the gross budget as $363.8 million, a figure submitted in order to secure tax incentives. When that number was reported in the press, James Gunn fired back online in his usual way. Quote, "How in the world do they think that they know what our budget is?" he asked. He offered no alternative figure at the time, instead framing the report as misinformed. Since then, DC has alluded to a $225 million net budget, factoring in those tax breaks and incentives. So that's kind of why, gross, net, those are the differences right there. What THR says about the Superman budget. Now, the Hollywood Reporter is standing by their original number, backed by state records and industry sources. The outlet reports that the $363.8 million gross figure was submitted by the production itself in official filings. A longtime Phil financier said it in the article, also told THR that the figure, quote, "isn't incorrect." Even if DC's net number is accurate, it's clear that total production spend remains far higher. And now the focus is shifting to the film's massive marketing campaign. Yes, indeed. Apparently, they're going to be spending as much as $200 million for the marketing of this film. So even if they got, let's say, $100 million back, $150 million back, whatever the final number ends up being in those tax incentives, well, they will have very much eclipsed that $400 million figure if you include the marketing side of this investment right here. Folks, this is a very, very expensive risk that DC and Warner Brothers is making right here. And in the fallout of now this Warner Brothers Discovery Corporation company now bifurcating, there's a lot riding on this specific production. Your thoughts?
And they're doing everything they can. If you look at those stories I put up, the second one is most relevant. They're doing a deal where people who have Amazon Prime can buy tickets 2 days early or something, and then that's going to get rolled into the opening weekend numbers, to help goose the number if it's not so great.
Oh, yes, I can see what you're looking at right here. Let me go ahead and share my screen in just 1 second. Prime members can snag tickets to early screenings of Superman. Here's how. How very, very interesting. So obviously they're doing a lot of tie-ins and promotional offers in order to see that these numbers.
But those sales, whatever they are, will get rolled into, we did this much money opening weekend, when it really isn't real and it isn't comparable to any other movie for its opening weekend. So,
it's interesting.
You don't do that stuff in advance if you're not worried, is all I'm trying to say.
Well, that's a fair point. I was reading the Hollywood Reporter article, and it was interesting because, I think they had one Hollywood executive or insider. I can't remember which one. I'll go ahead and look it up so we get exact information for you. But he was basically saying, look, these things just simply aren't sustainable. Of course, these were affected by the strikes and COVID and all that, and sometimes you get into those higher figures when with these specific productions right here. But I mean, you're going to have to make $1 billion on this film just to break even. Is that even achievable with a superhero film of this caliber in this way? Steve, do you think they'll make their money back and then some on this specific production?
I genuinely don't know, because I'm getting BVS vibes from this. Because when I was super excited for Batman versus Superman, as I think most of us were, and that movie had a major tone problem because, I mean, Snyder fundamentally does not understand the characters. Okay, I'll be a person that says what needs to be said. For all of those who are Snyder bros, you're welcome. But the issue is here. Like James Gunn has been said multiple times. He doesn't. I mean, I think he understands the hope of Superman. I'm going to give him that. I don't think he understands who Superman is, because as we've seen through different things he said, he's reading like a poor farm boy, all of this into it. He's probably pulled away the Christian roots, and it's just about being moral and whatever else. And so you have this character that's going to be void of his core. I don't even really care so much about the whole American way comment as some do. Because I care more about the character as a whole.
Dirty Canadian.
No, truthfully, like, I love that element of it. Don't get me wrong, but if at least they get the character right as opposed to a certain saying, I can let that go. Because then that way, at least the saying can come later. Kind of like the whole Avengers Assemble. It didn't come out until 10 years later. So like there's things you can hang on to, and you can allow those things to ferment. But what's happening right now is like the whole campaign of this movie so far has been just like just let's just see what sticks. It's the spaghetti at the wall, and no one's latched onto it. What I've been trying to argue for what this campaign should have been the entire time is let us fall in love with Superman. What we should have seen this entire time is just nothing from the movie. We should have only seen promotional things where it's like Superman, the entire trailer is just him going into a community and getting a cat out of a tree, helping an old lady walk across a road, stopping a car accident from happening, like doing little things. Like, let us fall in love with the character. Tell a story with your promotionals. And then that way, when you see Superman bodied and bloodied and Crypto save him, you're like, oh, we actually care about this person. No one's been invited to care about Superman because people cared about Henry Cavill. Nobody cared about Snyder's Superman. If you understand what I'm trying to say.
This is your inner Wilton talking, because
No.
I no, it is, because I understand that the only way that you could actually have a camera there for him to get a cat out of a tree is if you first throw the cat into the tree.
That's Lauren in a nutshell. That's wow.
No, that's Wilton. No, I actually agree with you, though. To be fair, though, I think what you're actually saying is, and this is a point I've been arguing for a while, is that the execs mistake Superman for his invulnerability. What you want to fall in love with isn't Superman, it's Clark. Clark is the core to the character. And if you don't get Clark right, nothing is going to work. That's why Snyder's Superman failed, is because he didn't have the core of Clark in it. Clark would never, ever have snapped Zod's neck. What makes Superman super isn't his invulnerability. It's that when put in an impossible moral situation, he will find the way to make the moral choice without taking the loss.
And so will this movie make back its budget? I think because they don't know the character of Superman, it won't. I want this movie to be amazing, as I think most of us do. I got special permission from the family to go and see this movie on whatever the earliest screening is that's available to me. Because I actually do want to see this. This is like the first movie that I actually want to see this year. And I want it to be good. I love Superman. He actually is in my top favorite characters, and I want this to be good. I'm just so absolutely scared because of what I've seen so far that I don't think, and I think most people feel the same way, that there's that hesitancy. They want it to be amazing, but they're scared.
Well, I think part of the weird thing about this, there's two things that are throwing me off about it. One is that the cinematography looks weird to me. The color palette looks weird to me. Something about the way this is framed looks odd. The other thing is they're shooting this in the modern day, but they seem to be going for a Silver Age vibe. There's some silliness to it that feels very much like this is the Superman from the 60s, where you've got things like Lex Luthor with a pocket dimension filled with monkeys and typewriters, and things like Crypto. That's very much of that era. And so tonally, this thing feels like it's all over the map for me.
Yeah, I felt that too. And I said, by the way, when they started giving the projections of big advanced sales, and people said, well, what's that about? Are people excited about the movie? I said, I wonder how much of that is not necessarily excitement about this movie. And people were saying, well, that refutes the whole people are tired of superheroes movies. And I think it's the opposite. I think people are tired of continually being disappointed by superhero movies. But if they're going to take a chance on one character of all these various characters, this is the guy, because they still have hope for him. And that therefore they're willing to be disappointed or fooled perhaps one more time. And if this one doesn't do it, man, Katie bar the door. Avengers, who cares?
Yeah, if this one doesn't do it, I mean, whew, man, we're in a world of hurt right here. Because even for Marvel's sake, right? If DC continuously puts out weak efforts in terms of comic book movies, a lot of people don't know necessarily the difference between DC or Marvel. And even if they do, they do start to get tired of, being consistently disappointed with this comic book movie fare. So for the sake of Marvel, they got to get this right. But go ahead, Lon.
I think I agree with most of you. Is that Superman? I love the character, and I think when done right, you can tell there's a ton of potential here. But we've seen so many bad interpretations of Superman, and I think a lot of it is because the studios and the executives, it's the same kind of thing that you're dealing with when you're talking about Rivers of America or when you're talking about Muppet Vision 3D. They think it's old-fashioned and corny, and that's the point. Superman has to be old-fashioned and corny for him to work. He's the big blue Boy Scout. They don't want to do that.
And by the way,
that's Lauren, the line from Avengers. We could use a little bit of that old-fashioned right now.
That's what makes him attractive to Lois. Because in a world of so-called modern guys who aren't, he's genuine. Because it's like totally not just refreshing, not just I wish I knew somebody like that. It's literally a guy from another planet, even though the planet, as far as she knows at the beginning, is Earth. That's a key part of his appeal to her, and important.
It's a fair point. And I'm guessing we're suggesting that this depiction of Superman hasn't necessarily embodied those qualities. And to that end, I agree with you.
So there's two elements that have embodied the character. It's when that little boy is holding up the flag in the promo and is looking down, and he's just Superman, like in the midst of the chaos, and the music. The thing that everybody has loved so far is none of the shots. It's the music. Because the music does something inside of you. I drive down the road with my kids and I put on that music. They're not fans of the Christopher Reeve Superman because it's just slow. And so, but like they love and are inspired by the soundtrack. That score, it gets you in the heart and it motivates you and you feel it.
I just hope the movie lives up to it.
Yes.
Because when you're saying that, and I'm not going to go into this again, I promise. It's reminding me of my experience with the opening night Epic Universe thing, where I sat there for half an hour looking at just the logo changing colors with this amazing part of that 40 minutes of new music that they recorded for the background music for Celestial Park and being inspired and wonderful. And when they finally started the show, it was a crappy Xfinity commercial and then these dweebs. It was like all of that built up positivity in me just vaporized in about 30 seconds because of what came after. So, boy, I hope so. Can
we go back to the shot with Guy Gardner and Hawk Girl and I think it was maybe Mr. Fantastic? Yeah. This is part of what is throwing me off. Look at the design of this movie. This looks to me all wrong. It's like I don't get what they're doing. They seem to be going with like Hawk Girl, for instance. Look at it's very primary color. It's almost like they're wanting to do what you would see off an old newsprint comic book page. But when you're so washed out in the background and overblown for lighting, it doesn't work.
Her design's the only one I'm not upset about, though.
Right.
Compared to the other two, it's good, but still, yeah.
I mean, do you see what I'm saying? This feels like in the concept phase, like something has gone wrong with their whole design language somehow.
Because they're filming with all Samsung phones.
Are they?
It looks like it's also because it's oversaturated, right? Which that was the issue with all the Snyder stuff. It was all blackened, whereas they're now like, we need to saturate, and it robs the life of the shot, and it makes it.
It is a good way, however, to hide the difficulty of having a girl with feathered wings against a background.
That's true.
That glare blurs that mix.
But that's where you just utilize lens flares.
Yeah. You and I do.
J.J.
But
Abrams. Somebody call him. Go ahead.
But anyway, go ahead. Lou, I think was going to say something.
No, I'm saying, why? How does he shave? Why do they give? I think of all these practical things. Like I said, the first thing that really pissed me off about this movie in the very first trailer was that damn dog dragging him. Yeah, he's hurt, he's crippled, he's beat up. So I can fly, but instead of picking him up and flying him to the fortress, I'm going to drag him through all this sharp ice all the way there. And I thought, what the hell is wrong with you, dog?
That's why I'm like, if that's how you opened up the movie, but your entire campaign was Superman doing Superman things, that could have been amazing. Like, tell a story with your commercials. Stop. All of your promos should be telling us who Superman is. Let us fall in love with the character. No, we shouldn't have seen any of this stuff. So that when we get into the movie, we would have been like, no way. And we would actually have been excited for a change. Like, none of us have been excited because they just keep spoiling everything.
And I'm telling you, it's a corporate decision that says we spent the money, put it in the trailer or else.
Yeah,
exactly. It's the same decision that, as I've said before, I happen to know a guy who was very big in AdPub at Universal when Jaws was being made. And they insisted that they do all the advanced publicity about the mechanical shark and how hard it was to make it work and all that. And I thought, I understand they had a lot of money riding on this thing, but damn, if you didn't know going in that it was a brilliant mechanical shark, it would have been 10 times scarier and 10 times better. You got to leave some information out of the trailer, damn it. But when your justification is, I got to prove why I spent all this money, those considerations go away.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happening here. It's like, okay, well, you have a plus $400 million investment. Let's put everything in there. Let's drive as many receipts as we possibly can. And it's like, yeah, but you robbed us of a lot of stuff. And I think, to Steve's point, you didn't really set up the character or get us invested as to why we should see this depiction of Superman. And everything else comes after that.
If the trailer is all the spoilers, what's left for the movie?
Indeed. Boy, we are going to be watching this with with keen interest, I will say, because there's just so much riding on this. This is pretty much the future fate of superhero films, right? And with Avengers Doomsday down the line, Avengers Secret Wars, is that right? Even further right there. Marvel's got to be looking at this. Disney's got to be looking at this. Warner Brothers especially is going to be looking at this. Well, because like we were saying before, now that they're two separate entities between Warner Brothers and Discovery, it's going to be, there's going to be less around them to make up for whatever losses.
If this doesn't work, you know what you're never going to see for years? Anything else of Batman. And isn't that a shame?
Oh, that's a decent point right there.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.